Welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be exploring Many Lives, Many Masters today.
Oh, fantastic.
It's by Dr. Brian Weiss.
Okay.
And it's a really fascinating account of his journey as a psychiatrist.
Right.
From being a total skeptic to coming to embrace the possibility of reincarnation through his work with a patient named Catherine.
It's one that really kind of throws a wrench in our conventional understanding of like life, death, and consciousness.
Exactly. And so let's start with Catherine. She initially presented to Dr. Weiss struggling with all kinds of things like anxiety and phobias.
Right.
And her symptoms were just not responding to traditional therapy.
And you know what's so fascinating about that is that Dr. Weiss at the time was very much a traditional, scientifically minded psychiatrist. He initially approached Catherine's case from a very clinical perspective.
Yeah, and then he decided to try hypnosis. And that's where things took a really unexpected turn.
Yeah, under hypnosis, Catherine began describing past lives in vivid detail, not just vague impressions, but specific names, dates, locations, even emotions. It was like she was reliving those experiences.
I'm really curious about the details of those past lives. What were some of the specific ones that she described?
Well, one of the first that she recounted was a life in ancient Egypt around 1863 BC. She called herself Aranda and lived in like a barren valley.
Okay.
What's really intriguing is that her daughter in that life, Cleistra, appeared to be her niece in her current life.
Wow.
They had this like incredibly close bond even before these regressions.
Wow. So that raises some really interesting questions about soul connections across lifetimes.
Right.
Is there suggestion that we reincarnate with the same souls, forming relationships that span multiple lives?
It is. The concept of soul groups is very central to his findings.
Okay.
He suggests that we often reincarnate with the same souls, playing different roles, and learning different lessons together across lifetimes. It's like a cosmic drama unfolding over centuries.
It almost makes you wonder who the people in your life might have been in those past lives.
Right. It makes you think.
It really does.
It invites a deeper reflection on the nature of our relationships, you know?
Yeah.
Catherine's case also brought up the concept of karma.
Okay.
Which is the idea that our actions in past lives can influence our experiences in the present.
Okay.
And it's not about punishment, but rather like a balance sheet of sorts.
Right.
Where we're working through unresolved issues and striving for spiritual growth.
So it's not just random events shaping our lives. There's a deeper, perhaps even cosmic order to things.
That's what his work suggests.
Okay.
Now, Catherine went on to describe many other lives.
Okay.
She spoke of being Luisa, a Spanish woman, in 1756 AD, who survived a deadly fever outbreak linked to contaminated water. She even described a life in 1536 BC where Edward, the pediatrician who referred her to Dr. Weiss, appeared as her father.
Wait, so not only did these past life figures seem to correspond to people in her present life, but there were also details that she couldn't have known otherwise.
Exactly.
Wow.
That was one of the things that started to shake Dr. Weiss's skepticism.
Yeah.
How could Catherine know these things? And it wasn't just about other people.
Right.
Catherine also revealed information about Dr. Weiss's own life.
Oh, wow.
Including details about the death of his infant son, Adam, and facts about his father that she couldn't have possibly known.
Oh, wow. That must have been incredibly unsettling for Dr. Weiss, a man deeply rooted in the scientific world.
It was a major turning point for him. He began researching reincarnation, diving into the work of renowned figures like Ian Stevenson, who studied children with past life memories, and Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut who had a profound spiritual experience in space.
It's fascinating how Catherine's regressions sparked this intellectual and spiritual journey for Dr. Weiss. So what did he find in his research? Did he uncover any scientific evidence to support the idea of reincarnation?
Well, there's a growing body of research that suggests consciousness might not be confined to the brain and that memories could potentially exist outside of our physical bodies.
Okay.
While mainstream science is still hesitant to embrace reincarnation, there are some compelling studies out there. Dr. Weiss delves into this in his book, discussing research on near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, and the work of pioneers in the field of consciousness studies.
So he wasn't just taking Catherine's word for it.
No.
He was actively seeking evidence and trying to understand these phenomena from a scientific perspective.
Absolutely. And as he explored these studies and witnessed Catherine's transformation, his own fear of death began to diminish.
Wow.
And he developed a deeper appreciation for the interconnectedness of life.
It sounds like Dr. Weiss and Catherine were on quite a journey together.
They were.
Her past lives were not only helping her to heal, but they were also prompting him to rethink his entire worldview.
It's a powerful testament to the potential of open-mindedness and the mysteries that lie beyond our current understanding of the universe.
Okay, so we've talked about Catherine's past lives,
right?
The concept of soul groups, and karma,
yes,
and the impact this had on Dr. Weiss. But I understand there's another layer to this story, the master spirits.
Yes.
What can you tell us about them?
Well, the master spirits are described as like highly evolved souls existing on a spiritual plane.
Okay.
And they began communicating through Catherine while she was under hypnosis, offering these like profound insights and guidance.
So they weren't like physical beings, more like a collective consciousness or a source of wisdom from another realm.
That's how Dr. Weiss interprets it.
Okay.
You know, he describes them as possessing this vast knowledge and understanding, transcending the limitations of our physical world.
So what kind of messages did they convey? What was their purpose in communicating with Catherine?
Their messages really centered around themes of love, patience, like learning from our experiences and spiritual growth. They emphasize the importance of shedding fear and embracing our true potential.
Did they elaborate on how to overcome fear? It's so easy to say, don't be afraid. But fear can be such a powerful force in our lives.
Well, one of their key suggestions was to cultivate patience and trust in the timing of our lives.
Okay.
They emphasize that everything unfolds in its own time, and there's no need to rush or force things.
Okay.
They also stress the importance of simplicity.
Okay.
And finding contentment in the present moment rather than constantly striving for external validation or material possessions.
That kind of reminds me of the wisdom found in a lot of spiritual traditions, the idea of letting go of attachment and finding peace within.
Exactly. The master spirits also highlighted the interconnectedness of all beings and the need for harmony with nature. They warned against humanity's self-destructive tendencies, urging a shift towards a more sustainable and compassionate way of living.
That's a message that resonates really deeply in our current times.
It does.
With the environmental challenges that we face and the increasing polarization in society.
Right. It's a call to action reminding us that we're all part of something larger than ourselves and that our actions have consequences.
Right.
They encouraged us to, consider the impact we have on the world and to strive for balance in all aspects of our lives.
So we've been talking a lot about the kind of broader themes and messages.
Right.
But I want to go back to Catherine's past lives for a moment.
Okay.
Were there any recurring patterns or connections you found particularly interesting?
One striking pattern was the recurring fear of suffocation.
Oh, okay.
Catherine described multiple past lives where she experienced a fear of a white, mushroom-shaped cloud and struggled to breathe. And this fear manifested in her present life as a phobia of flying and even a fear of choking.
It's almost like a traumatic memory imprinted on her soul, echoing through multiple lifetimes.
Right, and Dr. Weiss suggests that these unresolved fears from past lives can indeed carry over into our present, creating anxieties and phobias that might seem irrational or unexplainable.
Right.
And through past life regression, he believes we can access and understand the root of these fears, potentially leading to healing and resolution.
So it's not just about remembering past lives for the sake of curiosity.
No.
It can have a real therapeutic impact on our present-day lives.
It can. That's a key aspect of his work. Now, another fascinating connection was the recurring appearance of individuals from Catherine's present life in her past lives.
Okay.
Remember how Edward, the pediatrician, appeared as her father in the life she recalled from ancient Greece?
Yeah, and didn't her current love interest, Stuart, also appear in several of her past lives?
He did. This lends further credence to the idea of soul groups and soul families.
Okay.
Perhaps we reincarnate with the same souls across lifetimes, playing different roles, learning different lessons together, but always connected on some deeper level.
Makes you wonder about the nature of those connections. Do we choose those roles before we're born? Is there a purpose to these recurring relationships?
Those are questions Dr. Weiss explores in his book.
Yeah.
He delves into various theories and spiritual perspectives on the dynamics of soul groups.
Okay.
And he suggests that these relationships offer opportunities for growth, healing, and karmic resolution.
It's a fascinating concept. Now, you mentioned a particularly compelling past life you wanted to discuss, the life of Mandy. Can you tell us more about that?
Catherine described herself as a young girl named Mandy, living in a large house during a wedding celebration.
Okay.
What stood out was the presence of familiar figures.
Okay.
Edward, who we've encountered before, appeared as a young boy she was playing with. And Stuart, her current love interest, was her father in that lifetime.
That's incredible. It further strengthens the idea that these souls are intertwined across lifetimes.
Yes.
Exploring different dynamics and relationships.
Exactly. It's like this complex tapestry woven through time.
Yeah.
With threads connecting across centuries and continents.
Wow.
It invites us to look at the people in our lives with a sense of wonder and curiosity.
Yeah.
You know, who have we known before?
Right.
What roles have we played in each other's journeys?
That's a lot to ponder.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that Catherine described sealing jars of oils in a cave for some kind of ritual. What was that all about?
It was one of those details that stuck with me because of its mysterious nature.
Yeah.
He described working with priests with shaved heads,
Okay.
preparing these oils for a religious ceremony.
Okay.
But even under hypnosis, she couldn't quite grasp the purpose or meaning of the ritual.
It's almost like a glimpse into a hidden world.
Yeah.
A fragment of a memory that holds a deeper significance we haven't quite unlocked yet.
Exactly. And that's what makes exploring past lives so captivating. It's like piecing together a puzzle, uncovering layers of history, symbolism, and meaning.
Speaking of puzzles, didn't Catherine also have a recurring dream about a burning house?
She did.
Okay.
She did.
Could that have been connected to a past life experience?
Yeah, it was a recurring dream that really troubled her. She described being trapped in a burning house with her father, calmly telling her to go back inside to retrieve something he'd forgotten.
Oh, wow.
And it was that dream that really struck me as, like, symbolic, you know? The burning house, the sense of being trapped, her father's seeming indifference to her fear.
Yeah.
It feels like it could represent a feeling of being overlooked or even sacrificed.
And what's interesting is that when Catherine recalled this dream under hypnosis, the master spirits actually offered their interpretation.
They did, and it was quite profound.
Okay.
They suggested that the burning house symbolized the shedding of the physical body. The fire, they explained, represented transformation, not something to be feared, but rather a natural part of life's cycle.
So they weren't saying that the dream was literal, but rather pointing to a deeper meaning about the nature of life and death.
Exactly. They emphasized that we shed our physical forms throughout life, from infancy to childhood to adulthood. Death, they suggested, is just another stage in that process. A shedding of the physical shell to reveal the eternal spirit within.
It's a very different way of looking at death, isn't it?
It is.
Not as an end, but as a transition.
Yeah, exactly. And they talked about different stages of development on the spiritual plane, a learning stage, a decision stage, where souls choose whether or not to reincarnate. They even mentioned a realm of immense peace and renewal where souls go after they leave the physical body.
It's fascinating to think about these concepts, even if we can't fully grasp them with our very limited human understanding.
Right. It's a reminder that there's so much we don't know, so much that lies beyond our current comprehension.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. Past lives, soul groups, karma, the master spirits, the nature of death. It's a lot to process.
It is.
What do you think is the most important takeaway for our listener?
I think the key is to approach these ideas with an open mind.
Okay.
Don't dismiss them just because they challenge conventional thinking.
Right.
Explore them, research them, and see what resonates with you.
It's about expanding our awareness, considering different possibilities, and perhaps even questioning some of our deeply held beliefs.
Yeah, and it's not just about intellectual exploration. It's about connecting with something larger than ourselves, recognizing the interconnectedness of all things.
And perhaps finding a sense of peace and purpose.
Absolutely.
In a world that can often feel very chaotic and uncertain.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And who knows, maybe exploring these concepts will even spark a personal transformation, just like it did for Catherine and Dr. Weiss.
That's what makes these deep dives so rewarding. They're not just about gaining information. They're about expanding our perspectives and opening ourselves up to new possibilities.
Absolutely. It's a journey of discovery, both inward and outward.
Well, this has been a truly fascinating exploration of many lives, many masters. It's a book that challenges us to think differently about life, death, and the nature of consciousness.
It does. It certainly leaves us with more questions than answers.
Right.
But that's part of the beauty of it.
It's a reminder that there's always more to learn, more to discover, and more to experience.
Yes.
So to our listener, I encourage you to delve deeper into these ideas, explore the work of Dr. Weiss and other researchers in this field, and see where this journey takes you.
Yeah, and remember, the most important thing is to keep an open mind and a curious heart.
Until next time, keep diving great.